Upon completion of this micro-training, you will have a basic understanding on how to establish and safeguard drop zones in tree care work. Every job site is different. Some situations and tree care equipment will require additional protective measures not outlined in this training. That is why it's very important to always follow all regulations and your employer's work rules for setting up and maintaining a drop zone based on the actual conditions. Additionally, you should always consider your experience and safe work procedures before conducting any job task. A properly designated drop zone keeps all involved workers and equipment safe from damage, injury, and possibly death from the impact of falling limbs and debris. A drop zone is defined as an established area where sections of tree, limbs, and other debris can be safely cut and lowered in a work area. The drop zone size should account for the inadvertent falling branches or tools from an elevated position. Considerations for this drop zone should take into account issues like tree decay, limbs under tension, and workers' error. Prior to establishing a drop zone, you should first consider the operating reach and height of the equipment you are using to reach elevated heights. Once you have determined this operating height and reach, establish the necessary zones so that items dropped will not strike the aerial unit or workers. Any debris or limbs striking an aerial unit or elevated platform could create a situation of instability and serious damage. Next, conduct a job site survey to establish the boundaries of the drop zone. During this site survey, perform a job briefing of all workers involved in the work. This job briefing should, at a minimum, include all required personal protective equipment, potential hazards in the area, and the established drop zone. All drop zones should be marked with highly visible identifiers, such as traffic cones, caution tape, or drop zone barrier ropes. Clearly mark the designated entry and exit points to the drop zone. If there is the potential for pedestrian traffic nearby, designate the areas and consider placing additional barricades or a work area person to keep everyone out of the area. Additionally, establish the designated areas for worker activities, such as chipping and loading all cut limbs, so workers remain clear. Consider hazardous ground conditions, such as slopes or soft soil. Slopes within the drop zone could create a hazard where logs and debris could roll. Soft soil could create an instability hazard. Prior to operation, make sure the drop zone is clear of all individuals, to include those individuals inside of structures. As we stated previously, all workers must wear the appropriate PPE rated for the tasks being performed. Head, hand, and eye protection, rated for the task, can provide limited secondary protection from falling objects or flying debris. However, this PPE cannot protect workers from the larger objects being dropped from the elevated position common in tree care work. Staying outside of the drop zone is a worker's primary protection from falling objects. Operators of radio-controlled tree trimming equipment should always stay outside the designated drop zone. Staying outside of the drop zone allows these operators a better view of the entire work area. During the job, if conditions change, stop all overhead operation and evaluate the work area and the need to adjust the work site or drop zone. Operators and assisting workers should monitor the drop zone continuously. There is never a time while work is being conducted to become complacent or engaged where you forget the hazards in the drop zone or someone entering the drop zone unintentionally. Operators should immediately stop all work if an unauthorized person enters the drop zone or the work area is compromised. All workers shall stay out of the drop zone until the operator or designated crew chief authorizes workers to enter the area. Remember, a properly designated and monitored drop zone prevents death, injury, or equipment damage during tree care operations. Before a single tree or limb is cut, take the time to set up the drop zone properly and establish a safe work area and keep everyone on your job site safe and out of harm's way.